Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Update, your go-to source for the latest news, expert insights, and real-time developments on Iraq's currency, economy, and financial reforms. Whether you're a long-time investor or just curious about the dinar, you're in the right place. There's a fundamental and often misunderstood distinction between how Iraq's potential currency revaluation would unfold inside the country versus how it would affect those holding Iraqi dinar outside the borders of Iraq. Many people don't fully grasp the mechanics of monetary policy changes, especially when it comes to something as complex as redenomination combined with a possible revaluation. But once this distinction is made clear, everything else falls into place logically. In Iraq, if the government and the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, decide to change the official exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar and carry out a redenomination, often referred to as dropping the zeros, this process is designed primarily for domestic purposes. That means it's geared toward helping the Iraqi economy, stabilizing prices, simplifying cash transactions, and improving confidence in the local currency. However, the way this same change would be reflected internationally, for people holding Iraqi dinars outside of Iraq, particularly investors or speculators, is a completely separate issue and follows different mechanisms altogether. Let's begin by understanding the domestic scenario. In country, when Iraq implements a monetary reform involving a new exchange rate and the removal of zeros from its currency, what that means practically is that the old currency, the one with 3 zeros, is phased out and a new series of currency notes with fewer zeros is introduced. This process has been planned and discussed by the CBI for years. It's often called redenomination, and it's similar to what other countries have done when they transitioned away from high inflation periods. The goal is to make cash transactions easier, reduce psychological pricing effects, and present a modern image of financial stability to citizens and businesses alike. There are risks, of course. The Iraqi government could choose to revalue internally and not honor older dinar notes held abroad. That would create serious geopolitical and financial complications and damage Iraq's credibility on the world stage. But if Iraq chooses to revalue the currency in a traditional sense, especially in line with IMF and World Bank frameworks for monetary policy reform, it would be internationally recognized and honored. Currency held overseas would retain its face value, and the exchange rate improvement would be applied directly, without requiring conversion into the new currency. This is the same process we've seen in other countries, though it often varies depending on how the reform is structured. In some nations, currency redenomination involved replacing notes with fewer zeros while keeping the international exchange rate relatively stable. In other cases, especially in instances of economic recovery and structural reform, the new rate is paired with a revaluation that reflects enhanced national wealth, improved reserves, and stronger export potential. Iraq, rich in oil, gas, and minerals, with increasing trade flows and international reserves, fits this model more than most people realize. But outside of Iraq, the key mechanism is the change in exchange rate, not the change in currency design. That's why when people talk about a revaluation, they are referring to a shift in the rate itself, like moving from 1,450 dinars per dollar to something like 1 dinar equaling $3. This is a separate action from redenomination, though the two are sometimes implemented together. And it's this shift in the rate that foreign holders like Firefly's brother are most concerned with. Because if that rate changes upward, dramatically, or even moderately, it has a direct impact on the US dollar value of dinars held abroad. There's also a psychological element at play here. For people inside Iraq, they may not feel wealthier overnight if the government drops the zeros and changes the rate, because prices and salaries will also adjust. A loaf of bread that cost 1,000 dinars might now cost 1 dinar, and a monthly salary of 1,500,000 dinars may now be 1,500 dinars. Critically, this is why so many people invest in foreign currencies. They are betting not on domestic price stability, but on changes in the foreign exchange rate. They are not participating in the redenomination process directly. Instead, they are positioning themselves to benefit from a change in international value. And while this comes with risks, it also offers the possibility of large returns, especially when the currency in question belongs to a resource-rich country emerging from years of war, sanctions, and instability. Iraq's potential revaluation is tied to a broad set of reforms, including banking modernization, improved transparency, anti-corruption measures, and expanding ties to global markets. All of these things are prerequisites for a stable currency. No central bank adjusts a currency's value upward unless there is fundamental economic support for such a move. But Iraq has shown signs of preparing for this. From expanding its gold reserves to launching digital banking platforms and improving its relationship with the U.S. Treasury, Iraq appears to be laying the groundwork for a major monetary event. So, when someone says they are two different animals, they are absolutely right. The process inside Iraq is centered around simplifying the domestic economy and restoring confidence in the dinar. The process outside Iraq is centered around the speculative value of a major revaluation. Both are part of the same larger event, but they play out very differently depending on your position. If you live in Iraq, you'll hand in your old bills and receive new ones, fewer zeros, same general value. But if you live outside of Iraq and the rate changes upward, you don't need to exchange old bills for new ones to benefit. Your value is tied to the rate itself. The rate is the driver, and the zeros are just formatting. This is why, when Firefly's brother goes to a bank in America after a revaluation and the rate is $3, he will be able to exchange his 1 million dinars for $3 million USD, assuming the bank recognizes the new rate and the notes are still valid. This is not a fantasy, it's the very nature of how international currency exchange works. As long as the dinar is internationally tradable and the rate is accepted and official, banks must honor it. That's why monetary reform, when done transparently and in coordination with global financial institutions, has such wide-reaching implications, not just for citizens of Iraq, but for the global marketplace that interacts with its currency. And that is why revaluation and redenomination must be understood as separate but related. In country, the change will be about usability, credibility, and practical reform. Out of country, the change will be purely numerical, a matter of exchange value. One is about stability, the other is about valuation. And if both go forward in tandem, it would create one of the most significant monetary transformations in modern Middle Eastern history. Thanks for tuning into Iraqi Dinar Update. If you found this content helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a beat on Iraq's evolving financial landscape. Stay informed and stay ready.